Good morning, Tuvalu, and welcome to Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1, The Next Generation. Yeah, with a title like that, I'm for the first time growing properly concerned that Episode 10 is not going to be ... what comes to an end. Which is, of course, the first objectively correct title in all of history. I should start the recording now. But, yeah, I'll preface this, right? Here's my first thoughts of the season. There are a lot of bad names in this season. But no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome Bengenium in the chat. Yeah, look at this lovely thumbnail with a beautiful nebula. I thought it would be hard to find one in Season 2 of Picard, but I got one. This season threw about 5 great thumbnail nebulas at me in the first 5 minutes, none of which I will use because there's no Season 4. This is the finale, the final season of Star Trek Picard. Not the finale. This would be a really bad finale to your to your series. My mic, let me move that away. I want to get a new mic pretty soon, but let me get rid of our engine hums, and then we can actually start off. Just put something better on screen, because these are lovely, lovely LCARs we get throughout the credits. I want to actually preface this, not with talking about Season 3, but talking about Season 2. Because, unfortunately, this livestream format doesn't really give me a place like with the videos I did, where I can talk about my thoughts going into an episode. Because Season 2, I didn't finish, is a series of reviews. I did 7 episodes, and then didn't really review the others. Like, Episode 8 wasn't even really a review. Since then, you might not know, not a lot of people joined me for that. Bengenium, I think you were there once. We did a watch-through of Season 2, and I have since finished it. I did it on the channel. You can watch those live streams. There's, like, a playlist, on the channel. But, I was very negative on Season 2. I was extremely negative. I gave up, you know? Not just as a show, but, like, ethically, and, like, real-world implications of the show. I was extremely negative. I don't want to say my opinions have changed since then. More that, like, those last 2 episodes need, like, additions to my opinions. I do have to say first, a lot of my moral arguments against Season 2 were based on a faulty interpretation of one of the things in Episode 6, where I thought the Borg Queen had essentially drugged Jurati with, like, endorphins and stuff to make her do the singing thing. No, that was actually the other way around, is Jurati singing produced endorphins, which was good for the Queen. In one of the episodes, I had a fantastic discussion with a fan, I can't remember their name, but I know the picture of their icon, about how this could be ethical and, like, what they could be doing out there. I'd recommend it, probably, like, Episode 9. It was after the actual watch-along. But the important thing is that there are kind of 3... This is relevant to Season 3, very much, by the way. There were kind of 3 big moments, 3 key scenes in Picard, Season 2. To, like, resolve the plot or the characters' arc, there were 3 scenes, in my opinion. The so-called 5-minute pep talk between Picard and Renee, in Episode 5, 6, at the ball. I don't remember which one. In Episode 8, 9, I think probably 10, it was the revolution with what happened, with Picard on the night of the tragedy. I will reference now that Alex is here today, not really listening with headphones in, but yes, we're going to dance around. Yeah, that's the problem. We're talking again about how you're not supposed to be hearing what I'm saying.
I only popped up because you said my name.
Yeah. Good thing there's no Alex in this season so far, at least. But, well, there is an unnamed character. But, yeah, we're going to be dancing around some proper nouns, just to be aware. And then there is the final scene between Picard and Q, And those are the three main scenes of Picard. And Picard Season 2 is like a structural dumpster fire. It's a plot dumpster fire. None of it works. None of it connects. It was poorly made, poorly structured, in places perhaps poorly written. But those three key scenes nailed, absolutely nailed out of the park. Amazing. Provided you ignore the surrounding context of the rest of the story, the rest of the episodes, in the case of Picard and his mother, the setting and universe. Which is, yes, a big if, but those scenes in isolation, with very few exceptions, like, for example, the fact that Q referenced he was alone, despite having a family, but amazing. They earned what they did with Q, which, as you might remember, I was extraordinarily against up until the end. The 5-minute pep talk is undermined by immediately after Picard getting hit by a car, but that is the most Star Trek thing I have ever seen. The thing with Picard and his mother would be a story that you could spin way more mental health things out of and awareness if it wasn't set in a century where, in order for all the points of failure to get to that situation had failed, is just, it implies so much bad about the society that's supposed to be utopia that Picard grew up in that it doesn't work. But in isolation, these scenes themselves are amazing, and as I said before in my watch-alongs, leaving Picard Season 2, I remember that it's a mess. I remember that it doesn't work. I remember there's a lot to hate about it. I remember that by and large watching it was not fun unless it was with the group like watch-alongs. But what I really remember about Picard is those key scenes that work, because that's what the story was supposed to be doing. And, the character beats and those main pivotal revolutions are what I remember, and those were phenomenal. Again, ignoring the surrounding context. But, conversely, there's something like Strange New Worlds, where individually a lot of the bits were great, but what I remember looking back were the overall things it fell short, and the things it probably should be doing differently, and the places it could improve. So, with Picard Season 3, being about, all our next generation friends and that family, those characters, I actually had hope, because Season 3 was filmed alongside Season 2, meaning it's just impossible to learn from Season 2, good or bad. What worked, what didn't, they were both filmed at the same time. So, on paper, it's going to have all the problems Season 2 did. I can see some of them already. But if the strongest point about Season 2 was those big character moments and pivotal scenes, and that's what I'm going to walk away remembering, giving that to, the TNG crew could be amazing. It could really be the farewell that they want this show to be. So I actually had a lot of hopes. And still, there's one thing I'm not fond on. We'll get into that. But I do have hope for looking back on this series, this season, and what it could do with the characters, despite mishandling of a lot of things, and yes, even characters before. They probably will not have a perfect track record, just law of numbers. But hey, if they do most of them good. And I can't imagine they doing someone, proper dirty. They just, after TNG, they had a shit life, they were just awful. They were Raffi, and then they die horribly and pointlessly. I can't see them giving that to anybody. I would be surprised if everyone survives this season, but, they're gonna earn it, is kind of my hope. An absolute a plot line I was so against with Q, that at the end with that final scene, getting there, they didn't earn it all, but that final scene was so good, they earned it, and they did it so well. Yeah, shall we get into the episode, as it tries to win us over, if you notice, with the first contact music at the end. We're gonna get to the music. I'll say it threw me off right away at the beginning because this was so similar to the opening of Remembrance, and Paramount Plus wants to open me in season 2. It doesn't want me to go to season 1 when I go to the Picard page because it thinks I haven't finished episodes 9 and 10 for some reason. Oh yeah, I watched those on disc. Of course it doesn't think I finished them. But I even had to check because like it had an old song. It had a song from Fallout, which is a bold choice, the game Fallout. But I suppose if you want an old song people are going to know, that's what you pick. I warmed up to that, I will say. But I thought I might have been in the wrong season or something. I'm like, in the 25th century? Like, hang on, is this really the next one? Oh, hang on. I was flipping by. I want to get that name that was on a... Let me get my headphones off. I want to get a name. Because we have an unnamed character. I skipped past it. Okay, fine. But yeah, I will say, like, of course, every episode of every early Picard season so far, it started out really strong. I was really engaged with this Crusher stuff, this whole opening scene. Yeah, for a lot of it, let's see, actually, yeah, until right about this point, I was very engaged with the story. No, yeah, this is just setting up the mystery, this is the premise. It was great seeing Gates McFadden in the role again. It's just instantly, it's Crusher. Yeah, it just is. And it was really, in the start, seeing, to a lesser extent, Patrick Stewart, because we've been with him for a while, but like Riker and Crusher. Yes, this is going to be fun. Getting these characters like introduced and seeing them in their roles again. We knew this. This was going to be fun in the season. I realized I'm so used to Prodigy, I just jumped straight into a scene by scene. I didn't do any general thoughts. As I was doing this, I'm like, something feels off. God, I'm out of practice. Yeah, let's pivot away from this cold open. By the way, TNG Warp Core. Not quite, but it's cartoonish neat, good enough. Let me go backpedal a bit and do the thing we used to do for my general thoughts on this episode. It really kind of is in 2 parts. There's a part where I kind of started falling off of the episode. But yeah, that opening bit, yes, it was engaging. It was moving along well. The visuals, this is a great image to pause on. Like, the Elcars were always good in Picard, from what I remember. But that's Star Trek. Like, visually, it was just so Star Trek, and it was so that universe. Perhaps a bit dark in some of the scenes. Color palette, as I just skim through this, like, yeah, there's some good ones, like this bit, the bit in the corridor, the Titan, it's bright, it's sensibly lit, but most of it has that kind of mood lighting. It's way too dark, all the lights are off, it's very blue. I don't know if I can set this up, but I back up DVDs on my hard drive, so digital backups of physical media. And you get a little picture in File Explorer, like a random thumbnail from the episode, just because the file needs a picture. And you can always kind of tell a lot from a show, I feel, and even when it was aired. Because if I were to open up... Oh, screw this. What display capture? Hang on. What display capture am I on? Oh, that's... Yeah, I can't set this up. I'm not going to risk live streaming something on my desktop I really don't want to show. But when you open up the file and you see like all the episode thumbnails, you'll notice old one, often it's like from the first few seconds, so there's like 3 images of the Enterprise, like establishing images, because there were so few of X shots. But they'll kind of be random, like... kind of random images. If you go to a modern show, like if you open Discovery, every thumbnail is blue. It's just blue. It is blue. Like, Discovery is a blue show, so much blue, 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 blue. And yeah, Picard, let me open up Picard, actually. What do I get when I open up Picard? Like the previous seasons. Media, Star Trek, $23.99 Picard. Season 1... is actually very well lit. It's kind of like warmer tones. There's a few blues. That's a good one. Season 2 is a lot of blue. A lot of dark, desaturated colors, yeah. But I think more broadly, what I liked... Oh, you can't see this. What I liked about the episode were a lot of these early scenes where we just kind of see the characters. The story is moving along. It has a very Star Trek feel, especially with all these characters, and even like these little transmission screens, these LCARs, the iconography, the technology is all, right. It's Picard in his lovely chateau. We've got the paintings and stuff. And then somewhere around here, we start to pivot to Riker drinking is kind of a depressed-y kind of guy in a bar scenario, in a very, we'll say untraditional bar, Star Trek-wise. Like maybe compare something like this, with the music, the lights, the coloring, and everything, to Enterprise had a bar, whose name I can't remember for the life of me. But it was a very modern, 2001 to whatever bar, but I don't know if it's the definition, the literal, like, HD filming. Enterprise was HD, but I think you know what I mean. Camera quality or the lighting are weird. It just, it doesn't feel like something else. Hey, look, Guinan and Crusher. It doesn't lose the Star Trek world, but it stops kind of feeling like we're in that world. And then when we cut to here, it's like, oh, I'm like, where am I? Yeah, these are the negatives of Picard. I think it was around here. I'm like, Raffi's in this season, isn't it? Dang it. Yeah, just I'll get back to Raffi, because there are some interesting structural things with her character. And then, yeah, I think a lot of the rest is more better talked about in scene-by-scene analysis. But I think I'm going to pivot now, and we'll just go scene-by-scene. I have a lot of thoughts that are kind of disconnected, jumbling around, which means it's a good time for a scene-by-scene. I think this is a good episode to kind of discuss chronologically, as we happen with Prodigy a lot. So where's my cold open? I was very interested, of course, with the music. I'll get to that. I'm like, what are they going to do with the theme? And I liked, they started with TNG, then they ended with the very end of Picard. I guess it was over. It was very understated, which was unexpected. I guess it makes sense. I kind of like it because, the Picard intros, and I think Discovery as well, very much told the story of the season through the intro. Just kind of vaguely, though. And it was cool, like, after Remembrance, especially, when you went into episode 2, and you see the credits, and you're like, the opening credits, you're like, oh my god, this is the story of the show. Like, very abstractly. But now that we know that, I kind of like the understated nature. It's weird not having a theme. And it would have been weird to go back to the season 1 theme, which was way better than the season 2 one. And I kind of like the understated nature. I'm not gonna lie. It's just the show. And then let's get into some ship talk. We'll get into a lot more ship talk with the Titan. This is a nice little ship. It is very little, as we see later when a shuttle lands on it. That kind of threw me off. But it's a pretty good design. Overall, I'm going to say I'm not the biggest fan of the Picard era. Let's throw the Stowe fleet out for a sec, because that's kind of different. But it's a very good evolution. Like, it's an evolution. It speaks the language. The Zhang He, which is, again, kind of a weird case, but they speak the Star Trek language. It's maybe a bit, I don't know, angular. It's not my favorite. It's not bad, by and large. When you throw the Stowe fleet in, I'm not a big fan of the Star Trek Online fleet as a whole. But but it does work. It's a natural evolution. I like that the Stowe fleet they use isn't the, like, is a random example. Here's the Constitution class, but let's just change everything about it so it looks a bit worse. It was more the kind of original designs, like the Gagarin, was that an original design? I don't remember, but yeah, it's a good evolution. They're doing a good job. It's not my personal favorite, but oh well. I want to move forward. This was kind of interesting. Again, like Season 2, because there's going to be a lot of similarities between Season 2 and 3. It felt very much like I'm watching... This is the thematic opening of the series, and then the last scene of the series is going to be him not throwing away everything from his past and, like, maybe hanging the painting back up. Or actually, maybe he dies and Geordi just gets the painting. Picard dying would not at all be surprising for this series. But, and I'll say not inherently unwelcome, if they do it right. But there were some oddities, like, I can understand maybe, after the events of the last 2 seasons, he's living in the moment. He doesn't want to be stuck by his past. You've got reference Topia in this whole season, this whole scene. In fact, I'm probably just going to play bits of it. Let's skip past them looking at the painting. There's a scene in particular I want to get to, so I'm going to wait for them to get to it. When he's at his desk, there we go. You have the Eagle Moss, Gold Enterprise D. I will know that ship anywhere. I've got one. We'll get to Eagle Moss. You've got a Bajoran artifact thing, which he did actually help out some Bajorans before Deep Space Nine. That felt kind of odd. It was a weird mix of sensible and iconography for iconography's sake. It was just so much. I was like, oh, look at all these references. It's like watching a Lower Decks trailer. But it is odd that, like, his Rigelian flute, like, it's been a long time, but hang on, didn't he have that in a vault in Season 1? Whatever. But, like, I don't know, that's a big moment. Maybe we're trying to show that, like, he's grown so much. Like, this is so big. He's so obsessed with this moving beyond the past and not having a legacy. Like, I've never been an old man. I've never been, like, less than a decade from the end of my life, hopefully. But, it's just kind of jarring, like, really? Your Rigelian flute? Okay, and he's got the little doll that people always say he throws away in Generations, but he doesn't actually do. That stone archaeology green thing. Oh, there he is. God. Paramount Plus, why does your thumbnail preview never actually match what what I click on? On his desk, the little... Where is it? Come on, little green boy. I'm hiding the stream, by the way, because I can't just stream... There we go. I can't just stream a new episode. I'm going to get copyright struck. But yeah, this little guy. God knows what it was called. Look at that look he's giving me. He looks like he's so disappointed in me and so upset. But yeah, by and large, I was liking all of this. I think with the communicator, though, I want to get to the structural plot of specifically this episode. Because, again, I might compare it to a video game for a moment where, in a video game, the player kind of has to do one thing, then do another, then do another, do another. That, like, at the highest level, that's gameplay. If you're on, like, some RPG quest, some role-playing claim, you're Skyrim or whatever, you gotta escape the dragon, but then you've gotta get to, like, this town. The game developers need you to get to this town. They need you a way to get you there. And then they need a way to get the player from the town to, like, the first dungeon, kind of naturally, whatever. It's very hard to do that great and, like, kind of naturally, and it's quite easy to just have a string of, like, this door is locked, they need to get a key, and that key is in a guard who needs tomato sauce for his sandwich, and just kind of a random string of events. Let's analyze what happened here. So Beverly Crusher, sends a distress signal. She can only trust Picard. She can trust nobody but Picard. And she has to send a message specifically to him, specifically telling him, trust no one, not even Starfleet. And then he tells him, like, Hellbird, whatever it was, is like to encrypt the message, right? She encrypts the message with Hellbird. I do find it funny that the scene immediately after that is Picard trusting someone. But, I'm not going to fault him there. That's a sensible character action. Just the juxtaposition. We then go immediately. Picard goes and trusts Riker. Which, again, that's not necessarily the weirdest thing for Picard. But Picard doesn't know what Hellbird is, right? Evidently, he can't Google it. Like, Starfleet intelligence probably knows, but he can't go to Starfleet. So he has to kind of go to people for help. Well, that right there is the problem. I've just said it. Crusher, in order to give Picard a message only for Picard, so Picard and solely Picard, trusting nobody, can come and rescue her, gives Picard an encryption that is pretty much the only encryption he is going to know nothing about, and in order to understand the message and the coordinates, has to trust at least one other person from the Enterprise D. Okay. Like, if the message is trust no one, maybe she's going to be like, I knew you couldn't resist getting the band back together. You'd go to someone. But why tell him to trust why not say, like, you can only trust these people? Like, maybe the message is intercepted, but why not send a code Picard would actually know? Let's also analyze this code. It's a Borg code that arbitrarily adds the number 3 to the end of all navigation data. I am a computer scientist. I am a software engineer. You deal with security regardless of your field in, software engineering. There's always some database or some personal information or some server that, there's security. I'm intentionally vague about my job, but yeah, I brush up against security a fair amount in what I do. This is such a bad code. It's not even a code. Let's play this out for a moment, right? It's the best of both worlds. You're Geordi, like, on the con for some reason. And you're like, hey, Riker, the Borg have put some sort of encryption of our navigation data. It's like, it's all jumbled. It doesn't make any sense. First off, the computers we see in the Enterprise D, like, the things they do, could probably realize, like, if you just add 3 arbitrarily to the end of every number, mathematically, I would imagine that does something that's pretty easy to recognize. But you're Geordi, and it's like, God damn it, Geordi, how do we get to Earth? Like, we don't know. It's like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to look where Earth is, but hang on a minute, Captain. I've got something here. I've got a sector 0013 that looks like Earth. In our computer, that's where it says Earth is. But as we all know, Earth is in sector 001. And looking at all these navigation numbers, they all happen to end with 3. Every single number in our navigation database ends with 3. And I recognize some of these. Vulcan, Rigel. In fact, here's our current position. They're all exactly correct, except they end with the number 3. And I, as a ship's pilot, can probably recognize that all these numbers are 1 digit too long. If I just remove 3... Riker, that worked! The Borg, who have assimilated countless species, knowledge, and countless security officers, and in fact are biased to assimilating security officers and intelligence officers, added the number 3 to all our navigation data. Okay. And then, I'm skipping ahead, we'll get back to the scenes. Their only natural conclusion to get to these coordinates they now have is to steal a Starfleet vessel, which is interesting, because I think we established you could charter a vessel in this universe, Picard and Riker don't seem to give a damn about attending the Frontier Festival or whatever, so they can skip out on that if they want. Sure, he's posing as an inspection, which I have to imagine he legitimately got the rights to do an inspection, because otherwise the Titan would have gone in the wrong direction and immediately been hailed like, hey, what the heck is going on? Oh, your inspection crew sent me this way. What inspection crew? You know, that's how that would go. But, you know, whatever. Maybe they couldn't get a flight there. Whatever. So they decide to they decide to, like, commandeer a Starfleet vessel. So they pick, by the way, in, not Earth space dock, which is actually interesting, thinking about it, unless we're saying they've expanded Earth space dock. 1, 2, 3, 4, is that a ship? 5 outside, and, you know, God knows how many are in here. Can I get an interior shot with the Titan? Because there's probably more ships in here. They choose to commandeer the Titan, which is a ship that has a notoriously by-the-book and strict captain who does not deviate from his plans. Riker knows this, as he references it a lot on the way here, and this is probably the captain who is the least... He has orders from people with a payroll far higher than his, from like Starfleet Admiralty, to attend what I can only imagine is an incredibly significant event, you know, the Frontier celebration, and he's got this retired admiral and captain who has the same rank as him have asked him on a routine inspection is a publicity stunt to send his ship twice the distance in exactly the wrong direction to the edge of Federation space. Yeah, of course he didn't do it. Like, was there no friend they could have called on? Or maybe been like, Janeway, you're a bit of a loose cannon, like, you want to take us? Mariner? Is Mariner a captain now? Could Riker have been like, yo, Mariner, you're gonna be down for this? Like, I know the whole point is trust no one, but was there no one else who might have actually been likely, or even going in that way, who they, could have taken a ship for? You kind of see what I mean, where it's like, these pieces don't really fit together. They're kind of like, well, we need to get them there somehow. We need to get them the Titan. We need to get the Titan with this crew all the way over the other side of the galaxy. Like, it works that Seven's here. That's natural. Like, Seven's on this ship. Hey, I'm going to get more to Seven on this ship. But this kind of early bit, actually getting there. And if we pivot, let's go to Raffi. Raffi learns that, you know, the Red Lady is involved with stealing the theft of this weapon. Let's fast forward. You know, she finds out that the Red Lady is a statue in front of Starfleet headquarters. I want to get a shot of this exactly, because this is the Red Lady, right? This is the Red Lady that was so important to a general, which is kind of weird. I didn't think they had generals, but whatever. The Red Lady that is like the thing that, the tip from this attack. It's pivotal to the theft of these weapons. I'm looking for a frame here. Come on, let's, there we go. This frame. I want to point out that not only is the Red Lady, not the source of this weapons, not the source of the explosions. She's not even in the blast range. She is exactly out of this blast range. Thinking about it, it's also kind of odd that Raffi, who has been to Starfleet HQ, didn't hear the Red Lady and went, isn't there a big Red Lady at Starfleet HQ? Like, what? I love that Alex laughed right then, probably completely incidental to me, but,
I'm watching Matt hit a thing with the sandal.
Look at this city, right? San Francisco. Point to red.
Red.
That's not usually there. Red lady.
Red.
Yep.
But the light's red.
That's not usually there.
You said point to red.
There's, like, no other red, especially that vibrant, in this entire city. And so, you know, Raffi probably went here. I'd imagine Starfleet Intelligence is, like, at HQ, right before leaving for this mission. She also found out about this and evidently didn't call. She went to Starfleet. And we don't see her call. It could have been easy to try and hail them and comms were blocked or something. I don't know. Her ship sustained damage in a recent attack and it can't do long-range calls. But she just went to Earth and a load of people died because she didn't phone ahead and be like, yo, imminent threat, red lady. Which wouldn't have probably done anything, because again, I think this red lady is completely incidental to the plot. It's just here so that Raffi can realize where the threat is. Yeah, it wasn't the strongest setting off. But, you know, Season 2 also had a kind of pretty poor first episode, like getting their pieces in place. So maybe we'll get better when we get into kind of the swing of things, but not a great start, especially coming off Season 2, where they can't learn from anything that didn't work, or anything that did work. Yeah. Where do I want to jump on next? I think we were about here. And yeah, let's get... Riker has a line here about, how Kestra and someone else would probably enjoy the time without him. I think my audible response to that was fuck off, but maybe you can do something to that. How long have they been together? 20, 30, 40 years in some extent? And, you know, but my headcanon is that, because he said and Kestra, Riker has clearly picked up the trombone. You know, he started practicing jazz, and so everyone around him would very much enjoy some time away from Riker. That is how I choose to interpret this sentence. And, because what's the resolution to this, right? The resolution to this is, hey, it's a big happy family again. Like, there's not going to be a point to this with Nepenthe, which was like everyone's either favorite or second favorite episode of Picard. Why? Because they loved Pizza Riker. They loved Riker and his happy life, and they loved all of that. They loved that family. They loved everything. And the one complaint that people had about that side of the episode was Thaddeus. And, you know, what happened to Thaddeus and that plot line. That was the one complaint. And this team apparently saw that and went, hey, what if that is the focus? What if we take like a bad part of the life and we make that the focus? Yes, I want to jump back actually, because I remembered. I'm starting to get negative again. Yeah, a lot of my comments, I think, with this series are going to be negative, and the positives are going to be kind of ignored. These are just Eagle Moss ships. That's the Golden D. That's the Golden D. They're on their stands, which is takes me out of it. And cool, have the Eagle Moss ships. They have the Promethean battlecruiser in the bottle again. But when they had the big D, they had a custom sand. It is very weird, especially like the air bubble in there. These are just, you want me to go get mine? I have it. Like, I have this stand, this everything. I don't know when Eagle Moss went out of business compared to filming this. I know Star Trek isn't loving having these models available. But I wonder, is this some sort of campaign to, like, get these ships into production again? Also, and this is one of those, in an episode so negative, I have to say this is one of those criticisms that doesn't really matter. The fat one. Have you seen my chonky boy, the Enterprise C? Are you telling me that the Enterprise D is the fat one? Because the Enterprise C is the Enterprise D, but chonk. I'm sorry. If no one wants the Enterprise D, that's kind of weird, but fine, whatever. But don't you dare put that thing next to the chonk boy that is the Enterprise C and call the Enterprise T the fat one. Like, what? Maybe they didn't have an Enterprise C, you know, but why not? It's like a hero ship. It died heroically, and... Well, actually, what do they know about the Enterprise C? That's a question. No, they'd know what happened to it, because of Selena and stuff. Yeah, they know about the Enterprise C. Like, it's a ship that died heroically to literally save the entire Federation and history. And you know what? Maybe that's why people want the Enterprise C. That's why there's no Enterprise Cs. But I'm sorry. That is a chonk boy, the Enterprise C. And yeah, another little Enterprise. Like, yeah. You know what a ship people probably wouldn't want is the Enterprise E. I guess it did save Earth, but so did the D. You know, apparently that's not good enough. The Titan. Do we want to get into this? This will be, like, my one chance. I won't talk... This is like Strange New Worlds. We don't talk about Spock. This is the Titan, my one time to talk about the Titan. It's an abomination that takes a shit on everything... ships and lineages. Hey, wait, look. Here's another ship. In fact, I think that's a Luna class. No. Is it? Is that a... Miranda? Luna? What is that? That's a weird one. I don't know. I think it might be some sort of kit bash. I do kind of find it funny. As evidence to my point, this scene where they pan over the Titan with, of course, the Enterprise A music, like it's some sort of majesty of God, is... No. Okay, let's be civil about this. Okay, I'm going to do a civil, absolute deconstruction of the Titan A. This shot, but I'll finish my thought first. This shot was basically the Titan A's best possible angles. Because I was looking at this, I'm like, this doesn't look that bad, actually. Like, but I've seen the CGI model before. It's the same one. I realized in latter shots, it's because they were doing the best angles. This is a ship that definitely has good angles and bad angles, like most of them. The Enterprise D, great ship, has a lot of bad angles. You know, just to preface that. Like, Voyager might be the only ship that doesn't have a bad angle. The Neo Constitution class. That's a name. I don't like the Neo. I don't like revisiting the Constitution like that. It doesn't sound like a Star Trek name. It sounds like some hip, cool... What the Titan A looks like is a Star Trek fan design of someone who really liked the TOS Enterprise and went, I'm going to do this and just kind of change a lot. It's the ship, I'm going to change a lot. And so the silhouette doesn't look right. This is broadly why I don't like the Stowfleet. I want to touch up, again, I praise Discovery Season 3 a lot, is my favorite era of Starfleet design. They also have a Constitution class redesign. They flat out call it a Constitution class. I need a drink. It is not a Neo, it is not a different name, it just straight up is a Constitution class. I was reserving my judgment for the Eaglemoss model, because I really wasn't sure about that, especially with such long a gap between the last Constitution. But, so I'm not going to say, like, oh, I don't want people to say, like, oh, you're shitting on this one, but about the Discovery one. I think the Discovery one does do maybe a lot of things better, but my biggest complaints about the Discovery one are exactly what I'm going to talk about here with the Titan A. first off, let's talk about, it's a Constitution class. This is a general shape and proportions of starship we have not seen since the 23rd century. The Constitution class is the only ship that looks remotely like this. Maybe the NX refit, but very quickly the lineage goes into the Excelsior class. And, you know, you can see with the D, the E, the other Enterprises, they speak the same language, but no other ship in Starfleet has, like, this hull, you know, these proportions, these bulges. This is very Constitution. With then this neck, this very Constitution base. I mean, even these stripes, the kind of cell engine thing. This doesn't happen. You know, they play around with the proportions a lot more. This is the first really revisit to the Constitution. The in-universe explanation given by, is it Michael Caban, one of the producers? For the life of me, I can't remember, and I'm sorry I cannot cite this article I read a long time ago with the Titan reveal. The idea is the Constitution class is sort of a workhorse of Starfleet. That general shape, that design, he akins it to the Jeep. You know, the Jeep is a car, has kind of been around for decades, like since World War I, II, and it hasn't really changed because it's really, really good at a really, really specific kind of set of tasks. And the idea is, okay, the Constitution or something like it has stuck around for like hundreds of years because it is that. It is just great at a certain set of tasks, so they keep making things that are Constitution. Now, that's perfectly fine set of logic. The problem is, with a lot of these kind of changes, it's similar to a lot of the bad changes in modern Star Trek, and even broadly, when you continue a franchise but kind of don't do some of the iconography and stuff right, that logic is sound, just like the Discovery Klingons being a different subspecies or like race, ethnicity. The problem is we have literally never seen a Constitution class between the motion picture stuff and now. In fact, we've never seen one anywhere in the entire timeline other than the Constitution class, this, and way down in Discovery. If this is such a big workhorse, why do we never see it? And my other problem is that exists. Exactly what he described exists. A ship layout that just is very good at a specific task and always works, so they always keep it around and always just make modifications. It's the Excelsior class, the direct replacement of the Constitution class. So it's the one that did everything the Constitution class could do, but better. Bear in mind, the Excelsior didn't work because it was a transwarp experiment vessel. The transwarp failed, but then the Excelsior class was such a successful design. Bear in mind, its function was to take the exact function of the Constitution class and directly replace it. It was so good. We see it from its debut in the Search for Spock, I believe. Wrath of Khan, one of the two. And we see it through all the way to like the start of TNG, the earliest memories, all the way through. It goes through the Dominion War, still with no changes whatsoever. Makes it all the way to Lower Decks, where it finally gets a change. Gets Enterprise E nacelles, you know, so a slightly better engine. It keeps going on and on and on. We've seen them in Prodigies, that kind of Lower Deck variant. It goes all the way until Discovery, which has an amazing Excelsior variant. Doesn't have the secondary hull, but it's the saucers and the long detached nacelles. It is such a successful workhorse of the Federation that it makes it about 900 years and still going strong. And it was the direct replacement for this. The vessel that is supposedly such a successful workhorse, they keep making variations that I guess you just never saw. It was always off screen. So, but, you know, you could say, hey, things go in and out of fashion. Maybe someone just went, you know, that Constitution, there's a lot of good things to that. Let's try and make a modern one, in universe. They did that. Like, technically, that's what they did in Discovery before we knew this existed. Someone just went, hey, Constitution, want to try that again? But then I guess you could, okay, no. The reason that doesn't work is this is a Titan. This is a member of a lineage. Right? The Enterprise lineage, for example, I have it under my table. It is my channel banner. So if you want, open it in a new tab. What I love is it's an evolution. You can even tack the Discovery Constitution on the end of that. You pull, you push, with the exception of the rings chip, it's a line. They look at the previous one and they move it forward. The Voyager lineage, we only have 2 members, but you can very clearly see between USS Voyager and the J, it's basically the same ship. It's part of a family. I'm gonna kin it in the real world. I wear glasses. I've worn glasses since like 5th grade, and there's a beautiful moment in probably like middle school, high school, where I had all my old glasses in a drawer. Actually, it was probably moving out for college. And I would get the same glasses every time if it was available, but it never was. And so I lined them all up. And I could do this by time because my first ever pair of glasses, you could see every time I got new glasses, it was basically the same, but one thing changed. The rim's a little thinner. Little arms maybe don't have a cover in the middle, only on the back then. You've removed the bottom part of the lens. It was a very clear evolution, almost like you were modifying a prototype from my first pair of glasses to my current one. And I think you need that same thing in lineages. And this is just a total, absolute, radical departure from the Titan. That, let's also preface, this is a Titan. I'm not too happy with how fast and loose modern Star Trek is playing with lineages and these reuse of namings, but hey, whatever. I just think a lineage should be special. The Titan was, of course, a fan design, a beloved fan design for decades now, probably. It's an instant success. It was a love, so many amazing things, designs about that I'm not going to go into. It's celebrated when it gets added into Stowe, when it's merch. Eagle Moss made a model of it. When Lower Decks finally made it canon after so many more decades years than I waited just to make that canon. I jumped up like fists in the air, like yes, when in the finale of Lower Decks' first season. And then we kind of got settled in it with Lower Decks. Not 2-3 years later. It's probably a bit more, actually, but in terms of seasons, not many. I guess it's destroyed. I don't know, those 10, 20, less than 20 years? I don't know. Guess that ship's gone. And hey, we've instantly replaced it with this thing that's totally different. So you need to have a phenomenal design to kind of justify that. And throw out the absolutely beloved Titan that everyone would have absolutely praised you if you had used in this show. And so let's see what they gave us. It's the TOS but wrong. The TOS, the Constitution class, is like an iconic design for a reason. That original, very simplified. I'm kind of hoping for more shots of it. Hang on, I've just remembered. I can do a thing. Let me get some better shots for this. Star Trek USS Titan A. And I do believe you will see this when I pop back. Yes, let's stream this. The Titan A, I can just have a lot more freedom with the images I show. And I can't click on the images. There we go. Titan A just... It takes those things that made the...
Las Vegas!
Yeah, it takes those things that made the original Constitution class great, doesn't quite understand them, and kind of just misproportion them into something that looks odd. I'm looking, there's one shot in particular where it just takes the neck, throws it way out back, but also makes it a lot stumpier and pushed together. So you take the saucer, you push it down, and you push it back. It just doesn't really work. You take the nacelles, you kind of bend them odd. It's almost Enterprise E, but not quite. And then with the wrong nacelles that are just huge, chonky things, it doesn't work. It looks like I see all the time. I mean, I hate to kind of shit on the artist generically, but Star Trek fans love designing starships, and most of them just aren't very good. The reason people love a Titan like this, there's like a small handful of ships people love that are fan designs, is because so few kind of deconstruct it right and kind of and do that to produce something that's like, yes, we move things forward, but we also fit it in that universe and it works. Often, like, we took an Enterprise and we put 6 nacelles on it. It's a dreadnought. And now there's 2 saucers. It's like, okay, you made it busy. And I like to preface, I could not design a starship. Like, God, no. But it feels like one of those fans' first Star Trek ship that it just feels like a fan design. A fan design shouldn't feel like a fan design. Like, look at the Titan. It doesn't feel like a fan design. It feels like it came out of the screen on an episode of TNG, or perhaps Deep Space Nine. It's a bit further ahead. This doesn't. This looks like a misfit. Are we going to Jupiter Station? And is Jupiter Station around the moon? We'll come back to that. It feels like a misfit. You've plunked the Constitution, put it 100 years ahead of where it should be, and it doesn't work. Which, again, a criticism of Star Trek Online's ships. It does that because, with fans, it's a game. People want to fly the Constitution around. They want to fly their NX around, but set in the 25th century. And so when you throw those designs up ahead, they don't work. And you kind of have to change them to try and get them to work, but then they're just not right. It's an abomination that takes a big dump on the USS Titan, and that glorious ship, what's now a legacy, and it just threw away the Titan. It's like, you don't get that anymore. It's gone. It got destroyed. It got retired, like, just 20 years after it came out. Maybe not the most surprising thing. What was the Luna class? A long-range science exploration vessel with Riker at the helm? But let us see that, it's just, that's the last time I will talk about the Titan. We're now entering, we don't talk about the Titan. New rule for the series. We'll get to this bit. Let's get to the characters. I think this is a good point to enter the characters. Let me take a drink. Star Trek Picard has a very interesting thing with its characters. If we go to just analyze the people who've been in the series, you have Soji, rather her actress, who in season 1 plays a non-naturally born life form, who has been lied to about their past, their origins. Essentially, their life is a lie, and they go on. Over the course of the series, they discover the truth and who they are. In season 2, that actress plays a non-naturally born woman who has been lied to. Their past is a lie. Their life is a lie, and they don't. You see what I mean? They played the same person. I pointed this out last time. It was just weird. Raffi, in seasons 1, 2, and 3, I will save you the long, drawn-out thing. Well, no, she's more let's go. Raffi, start season 1, is a depressed, recovering drug addict, if you can call it recovering, who basically is just miserable the whole time. Her life is in shatters. She's like a conspiracy theorist, but no one believes her. And where am I going with it? And by the end, she kind of pulls her life together and finds a place she belongs. Season 2, that life is stripped away from her. She spends the whole time kind of depressed and one-track mind focused on the goal of Elnor, as opposed to the Conclave of 8. But eventually, she pulls her life together, and, in the end, she finds a place she belongs. Again with 7, just like Season 1. Start of Season 3, she is spiraling out of control, depressed and singly obsessed on a single goal, the stolen weapons. Working for Starfleet, yes, but basically miserable all the time. She's the same character all 3 times. I'd also like to point out that this is now a 3-season, 3-year relationship between Seven and Raffi that has happened entirely off-screen. It is an off and on relationship where all of the on is off screen and all of the off is the seasons. It's mind-boggling. But yes, Carlos A. Smith, welcome to the stream. The Titan was refitted. Oh god, there were some hints in the line and in the show, and I chose to ignore them because this is an insult. The Titan was refitted into the Neo-Constitution, heavily damaged, was stripped to the frame, and rebuilt into that mishmash of it. So not only are you metaphorically tearing down and taking a dump on this decades beloved and long-anticipated ship, you have literally torn it down. Like, at that point, the Enterprise for the Enterprise A, we'll call it, refit, they tore it down to the skeleton and rebuilt it, right? Like, you might as well have rebuilt a new ship. Dude, no, let me get that up. That doesn't make any sense. Star Trek USS Titan A. Here we go. These ships... What part of the frame? What part of this frame became this vessel? But the nacelles are the wrong way around. The bump is wrong. They're completely different engines. The saucer is completely different proportions. You got rid of this thing. There's no frame. There is no frame of this that gets rebuilt into this. You tore the Titan down for scrap and you built this out of it. Like, it... Yeah, no, that's one of those things, Carlos, that we just, that's one of those Starfleet has never had a female captain kind of lines that was in the show, but Mr. Pike, Woman on the Bridge, that's just not who he is, That's that's one of those lines. God, that... Why? Who thought that was a good idea? If you wanted the Titan, use the Titan. The Audi got the same treatment. Odyssey. Oh yeah, fan designed it getting the retirement. That was weird. For those of you who don't know, it seems from like one of the pictures that were shown... oh, sorry, you can't see this. The Enterprise F Odyssey class will be in Picard, but it's being retired. Which I'll get to it more when it shows up and we know more about it. If it's just on the background, hey, I can ignore it. It's kind of weird to get rid of the Enterprise E. No, this is something I'll talk about a lot more, because I really want to get into how quickly we burn through Enterprises. It's like Doctors 5, 6, and 7. But yeah, it's kind of weird to bring the Enterprise F in and say, okay, no one can ever use it. It's gone now. It's retired. But we'll get to that. Want a positive? I love this corridor. It's Star Trek. it's well lit. It looks like a Star Trek. You know, it's filmed modern. It's filmed a bit differently. It's not like it came out of the 80s and 90s, but is a set. It came out of Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You know, look at Seven standing right there. When well lit, this is so far an amazing interior. This is a great set. Love it. It's just a shame the outside's poop. But then again, I guess if I had to have it one way, I'd rather have a good interior and bad exterior than the other way around, because we're probably going to be spending a lot more time inside the ship than outside the ship. But what I was talking before, yeah, the characters are playing basically the same roles every season. Seven has, kind of been struggling with the Borg stuff in different ways every season. But now she's finally in Starfleet, but no, they can't give her a happy time. They put the ex-Borg in a ship where the captain is incredibly outspokenly against ex-Borgs to the point of, judging Picard as being an ex-Borg and is downright racist. As soon as Seven said, Commander Annika Hansen, the captain prefers I use Hansen. It's tell the captain to shove off. Tell the captain, fuck you then. I'm 7 of 9. That is my name. If you don't like that, tough. The Starfleet this show is painted, I could understand, maybe it's hard to find a captain who would accept her. Kind of like Data, supposedly bounced around a lot of ships before the Enterprise finally saw him as a person. Maybe you could say there just isn't one. I will complain then that there is not a ship like Janeway. I don't know. Does Janeway have an opening? What's Janeway doing nowadays? But it's yeah, you can tell this guy to fuck off. And you can kind of tell immediately you're not supposed to like this captain. But we're now in the part of the episode past kind of that line where I want to see Star Trek characters. I hate to say it's not Star Trek, because that is the cry of the I will hate anything new. But no. It's not that I want to see Star Trek characters. It's that I want to see Starfleet officers. With Pike, that was one of the things that was kind of often cited, as I remember in the discussions. With Discovery and then the first scenes of Picard, Pike was such a breath of fresh air because he was a Starfleet officer. He had that lightness, that enjoyment, that, yeah, I grew up in Utopia and I live in Utopia. You can have a by the book kind of captain kind of guy. And I'm not going to pretend that classic Star Trek didn't have its slew of Starfleet officers who were very not Starfleet. I might even say it's the majority of senior officers. But I think in the show, they're the exceptions, in terms of characters. Badmiral is a phrase. Yes, that is a classic phrase. But it's really? And maybe Seven doesn't kick a fuss because she's afraid of, being kicked out, or her position is so fragile. But is that the Starfleet you want to paint? Is that the Starfleet as an audience member you want to watch? Carlos, Data was activated in Starfleet for 20 plus years. He worked his way up progressively. Yes. But if you've never read it, there's a lot of interesting theories and stuff that everyone in the Next Generation at some point across the 7 series has friends or previous lives or ships, people they served with in the past, secret siblings even, whatever. Data has nobody. Data has his creator, Dr. Sue, and, maybe lore or something, but people he didn't know about until the Enterprise D, or just weren't really part of his life, between being abandoned and then when they showed up in TNG. And 20 years is a very long time to slowly work his way up the ranks, and he even says what he does. And the way everyone outside the Enterprise treats him, there's a very solid argument, and even maybe it was intended by the show, that literally everyone was like Pulaski or someone, and no one saw Data as the person until he went on the Enterprise D, where there just happened to be a group of people that maybe even then, if you think of Farpoint and stuff, took a while to warm up, but were quickly, maybe without realizing it, just treated Data like a person and not a machine. And he found friends, especially in people like LaForge. And it's only then when people really start fighting for him or the questions of AI rights come up. I honestly, I cannot remember what the original point that spurred this conversation was. But, it's kind of concerning that, or weird as writers, that, like, so many of these recurring characters have played the same character every season they're in. Rios didn't, I'll give him that. I have other problems with Rios, but even Elnor, like, he served his purpose in his introductory episode, and then the show got rid of him because he wasn't needed. When he showed up again in season 1, there was really no reason to be there. He became some sort of emotional wreck. Like, there was no point in Elnor beyond his introductory episode. In season 2, they just killed him. Like, he spent season 2 dead because there just wasn't a point to his character beyond his first episode. Now, who knows what he's doing? They don't even bother to get rid of him in this season. He just doesn't show up. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. And I'm kind of glad this is ending. Like, we're wrapping up. We're going to have this hurrah, whatever. But I feel like we just would have been stuck in so many of these ruts and things I'm seeing, especially with seasons 2 and 3 being filmed together. I'm already seeing a lot of season 2 with it being the same crew, same production staff, different from season 1. If you didn't know. Another drink. But, yeah, they can hit their big moments. I mean, that's what season 2 proved to me, but it's the surrounding stuff I'm concerned about. Give me Pacifist Wharf. Like, God, they could do it right. They could do Pacifist Warp so good. But another thing, last episode, ... must come to an end. That's just, come on. That's been the title since the show was announced. You just have to. How could you not have that be the title? It's so good. I believe this is Mika Burton. I know this is LeVar Burton's actual daughter. This is a horrifying photo of her. I'm going to change it. But, that's better. I don't know if he has multiple daughters. I think he might, actually. But it probably says in the credits. But, yeah. It's a pretty nice bridge. I'll say it's a very... It feels like a Starfleet bridge. It's kind of cavernous, actually. And it's underlit. Yeah, it's underlit as heck. But the L-cars, the general look, this is a bad frame, actually. Like, what is all this dead space? This dead space... No, this needed another pass. But by and large, other than the lighting, I think they did a great job with the sets. I think the sets of the Starfleet are very good in this season. I think the lighting is not. I think the lighting brings the sets down in a lot of cases. Carlos A. Smith, they degraded Anna, strong personality. She was assertive, opinionative, and bold. Now she's questioning herself and her position in her life. They may be rebuilt her, which is annoying to do that. In the show, he has 2. In real life, he has 1. I would love it if LeVar Burton's one daughter plays both daughters in the show. But yeah, I'm actually glad you said that, because I wanted to bring up, there was a line where she said, like, how do I... she was something about, like, how do I follow... Like, how can I blindly follow orders or whatever and balance orders with, like, gut instinct? And I just had, like... Let's forget for a moment if you like that or not. I just went, wow. Talk about a character coming a long way. Like, it's been a while since I've seen Voyager, but 7 of 9, Voyager of 7 of 9 from Voyager literally scheduled fun. She literally had a schedule and had scheduled times to have fun. 7 of 9 was the most schedule by the book, what are these stupid instincts? She has a scene with Janeway that I love where she's like, instincts aren't even real. Like, what the heck are you talking about when they're playing tennis? And Janeway is like, instincts are right. Like, consciously or unconsciously, I was aware of many things about, like, the tennis ball. Like, the force and angle I hit it with, the sound of it bouncing off the wall. Maybe, like, wind pressure of it, going through the air or whatever. And it's like all of that combination that like I don't even know, or like we don't even know what it was, is what we call the instinct and how I could hit the tennis ball. And then you get this, which done well, great thing for a character. I mean, I'd even say that was the intended direction that people probably imagined Seven going, just becoming a bit more human, and less, strict, rigid Borg. But yeah, my problem with Seven is you just took her and gave her a shit life. Starfleet wouldn't accept her because she's Borg. It's the common criticism, like that's just a shit life or a shit end that we don't want for our beloved characters. And I'm not sure it's really earned. Q is maybe the only one who that ending scene earned it. It's a shame everything around it was shambles and inconsistent, but that's why Pacifist Worf is such a good idea. And if you just look at everything that happened with the Empire and how that character was involved in it, from TNG through flippin' Voyager, Enterprise even like built up prequel stuff for it. I love Klingon society. And just, late in his life when he gets to talk from Ezri, like a woman he still respects, like about how the Klingon Empire is dying and it should die. There's a K-less on Kronos right now. You could do so much, and it'd be very easy to make like some pacifist Worf, and Worf has so many lines. I'm watching TNG with Alex where like the true battle of a warrior is in here, in the heart. It's conquering your inner demons and your inner battles and your fears. Pacifist Worf is such a like, once you say it, how did I never realize before? But like, if they fumble it, that beautiful story and idea just isn't gonna work. And I think that's maybe what's happened with Seven, is they didn't necessarily fumble at her story. It's just not what people would have wanted for such a beloved character. I'd still argue she's strong, in a dark place, but I wouldn't describe Seven as weak. Even just look at what she does here, going against orders. But like, I feel like maybe you should have had a Seven. It was like, no, you're Commander Hansen. He's like, fuck off. I'm Commander 7 of 9. And if you have a problem with that, tough luck, because I'm Commander 7 of 9. That's my name. That is my culture. The Borg raped me, functionally. They took everything I had, but they changed me, and it is a part of my life, and I am 7 of 9. That's the kind of person that I want to see in a Star Trek, and I want as a character. This version of Starfleet didn't accept her outright first. I'm going to be honest, I don't even remember if Voyager did. Like, she was some random Borg that was on the ship when they left. I don't remember what that was like. They certainly probably didn't give her full trust. And I'm fine with people not really accepting her or being wary. People were wary of Data. But I don't like that being such a systemic built-in thing that, like, you can't even stand up for yourself in Starfleet. I think you have to be very conscious of what humans do when making a Star Trek. I've always said aliens can do whatever the hell they want. Some of the more established races, Vulcan, Klingon, Romulans, they have guidelines you gotta kind of stick to. But, you know, the aliens can do whatever the heck they want. But, humanity has to be a model. It has to be the, like, most liberal of liberal fantasies. And, you know, maybe you can stray, you can bend the Federation, humanity, people, characters. You can't, but you can even have bad people, bad humans. You can't break the Federation is the key to in Star Trek. You can never break the Federation. You can bend it hard as it'll take. You know, you can home front it. You can do whatever, but you have to then have some realization of we have strayed from the path. We are devolving, and by God, am I not gonna let that happen. You know, you've got to have society fix itself, and Picard hasn't done that in any of its things. Like, even the synth band, it was kind of so off camera, or like sudden. Like, Riker just shows up like, hey, we support synths now, I guess, even though they're doing literally exactly what we feared they would do and more. Whereas something like Deep Space Nine, which, yes, has a lot of things I don't like, spoonheads. I don't like the racial slurs. It was a very, I know, discussed and I think even fought over thing of do Starfleet officers say spoonhead? And, you know, it was thought out. I will give them that. They thought it out, and they actively chose to make decisions to show, like, yes, Starfleet officers are going to use racial slurs in this war. And it's never addressed. I think that was also very consciously. Deep Space Nine never addresses the fact that Federation officers call Cardassian spoonheads. But that's one I personally disagree with. But Deep Space Nine, the times it maybe doesn't correct the Federation, like the Siege of AR-115, whatever, tells such powerful and well-told stories that in some ways you can give it a pass, or even maybe do so much real-world good. Like the amount of veterans or people with PTSD that come back and say, Nog, ARR5, Pale Moonlight, like, yes, you know, you nailed that. You did this story. You brought the horrors of war into the living room. You know, that can the real world good can justify the kind of damage to the universe, if you want to put it that way. Carlos, the original intent from Gene Roddenberry and Writer's Mission, but this current version is not on that mission. I will say flat out, Gene Roddenberry did obviously a lot of good for Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry's vision is a very well-documented thing. I think we can say whether something follows his vision or not is a matter of fact, assuming he did not lie on his, you know, series Bibles and stuff. But to me, when you have, like, William Shatner coming out and saying he would be turning in his grave, and this does not adhere to Gene Roddenberry's vision, my response is, and? I don't think that's inherently bad. Deep Space Nine doesn't adhere to Gene Roddenberry's vision at all, and it's great. Even the original series has plenty of moments that did not adhere to his vision. Gene Roddenberry wasn't a saint. Gene Roddenberry, both in his personal life and even in Star Trek, I think went against his vision at times. I think the influence of, you know, how he could kind of kick up a fuss, or sort of had some veto power over certain things, like the coup in the Federation that was supposed to happen in early TNG. He gutted the episode with, like, the worm parasites, whatever, but I think that that was an overall good for the franchise and keeping humanity that kind of moral foundation. And I think, honestly, one of the reasons Deep Space Nine and even late TNG is so good is you had this cast these writers, sorry. And it is, I'm going to say it's the writers. It's not the set designers. Maybe in part it's the actors, but it's the writers who worked with Gene. They know him. They know this vision. They're very solid with Star Trek and what it is. Gene Roddenberry's influence in his vision is still very there and very fresh, but he was dead. He couldn't step in and say no. Pale Moonlight, ARR, Siege of AR-115, what the hell are you doing? You can't do this. I think you need something to rein kind of the writers back, who inherently, they're going to want conflict. Conflict is story. It just is. TOS, where he had a lot of control, the writers hated that, like, humanity couldn't have conflict with each other, because they're like, how do I write a story without conflict? And I think Gene Roddenberry, holding a lot of those elements of his ideals and his vision, did a lot of great for modern Star Trek, and in some ways is missing in the series that aren't as highly regarded. That's one of the things that are missing. But you need to stray, because Gene Roddenberry, he hated the Wrath of Khan. He thought it went against his vision. The sheer idea of a station, Deep Space Nine on a station, that's against his vision. There's so much, like, often a lot of the best things about Star Trek, in his lifetime, went directly against Gene Roddenberry's vision. So yes, I will cite Gene Roddenberry's vision is something to hold to, and, you know, worth looking at. I'm getting my alarm for Star Trek Picard Season 3 on my phone. I think I've got it on the wrong time. And the dog ate the phone, so the phone's going crazy. But, yeah, I think people need to let go of it is the gold standard, because even when he was alive, it wasn't. I think Gene Roddenberry's influence is what the franchise needs. I think a show that everything happens exactly how Gene Roddenberry wants is bad. It's just not very good. That's early TNG. You know, it's got highs, but it's no one's favorite. Carlos again, writers envision the narrative, actors are characters of the story, directors with some improve inputs, make the presentations look better. Yes, definitely. The final product is a culmination of everyone. But when it comes to, like, how Star Trek is this, how the set looks is important. You know, the set design, the visuals, you know, that's important. But in the things we're talking about specifically, that's writers, I think. You know what? An actor has some sway over their character, how they act it, sometimes even what they can say. But that's a place where writing is necessary. If you want another great example, like Chris Chibnall's entire run of Doctor Who, is everyone absolutely nailing it except the writer, Chris Chibnall. And that's honestly, actually, Chris Chibnall's era of Doctor Who, especially like Flux or something, the later you go, is a great example of where writing needs to work. Because that's kind of the one thing. If the writing isn't good, it's going to hold the rest of the show back. If production quality is bad, you know, that's one aspect. If an actor isn't great, you know, that's kind of one aspect. But writing is definitely a very key. The show can only be as good as the writing. It's a product of everyone, you know, the directors, the camera operators, the actors, whatever. But the writing puts a ceiling on how good a show can be. Writing is always the meat of everything. Nothing is greater than that. Yes. And, you know, direction and editing can ruin a show. But direction and editing, sometimes you can nail it, like Star Wars. You know, the editing saves Star Wars. But generally, you know, if you have just a garbage story, your editing's not going to fix that. It can do a lot, but it's not going to suddenly make the story good. Can make the pacing good, but not the story. Let's move forward a bit, because, wow, we're going a long time on Star Trek. Ooh, I like those seats. Yeah, great set. I'm really liking these sets. I wish they were lit differently. Great uniform as well. I don't know if it's supposed to be the Lower Decks uniform. I think it's an evolution on it. It is not the one I'm wearing. Instead, you got a drawing of Spock for the TOS watch-alongs. But, yeah. I like a lot of this production. No, I like the sets and costumes of Starfleet. I like the chateau, but a lot of other things. That's why I was saying before, like the bar, the whatever planet Raffi was on, just didn't have that Star Trek feel. And I'd love to compare it to Lower Decks, maybe because Lower Decks has a visual style, and it's kind of a dystopia planet, so to say, are drawn in that style. Maybe that helps. Maybe the characters, the way they behave, help. But it doesn't feel like I'm watching a Star Trek. I want to circle back as well to something, actually. I forgot to mention early on. Picard and what's-her-face, Laris. I really like how they are in this opening scene. I think the intention is they got together. And after seeing this, honestly, I get it. They lived together for, 10, 15 years, what? They've got great chemistry. They're very comfortable with each other. Their outfits, the lighting, the chateau, everything just says, I get Pizza Riker vibes. This is a cozy, happy life. They're both happy. The way when they're talking about the message even that he got from Crusher. And the way she kind of comes on and like leans on his leg or something. I wish I can get the shot. They're kind of bickering where she's like, don't take the painting. I thought this was great. If I could see this in season 2, or even like hints in season 1, I would have been all on their feelings for each other in season 2. Like it's late, but yeah, you've earned it. Like yeah, it's not Picard and Crusher, which is maybe what a lot of people would have written. I'm not sure I would have written Crusher cutting everyone out of their lives. But hey, we have yet to get the reasonings. Oh boy, I've heard that defense a lot, but, I can see it being a Crusher thing to do, but also, he specifically said he had not seen Crusher in over 20 years. I didn't think it'd been that long since Nemesis, but, let me check, actually, what's this called? Oh, God, how am I gonna get this on Memory Alpha? Star Trek Picard Memory Alpha. This series is a nightmare of trying to Google. Everything since in the 21st century is a nightmare to Google. Okay, Star Trek Picard. I'm trying to get the date if it's on Memory Alpha. Set in 2411. Oh wow, we've jumped. It's 2411. Really? So we're, 11 years from season 2? That makes the opening kind of weird. No, surely. Have we had an 11-year time skip? Chat, am I crazy? Because Memory Alpha says it's 2411. Did someone accidentally... That must be a typo, because the page for Picard says 2399 to 2401. But the page for The Next Generation says in-universe date 2411. I think someone might have accidentally said 11 and not 1. Let me 2411. Huh. I don't know. We'll circle back to this. Carlos, it should be 2401. Thank you. Did someone want to go fix that on Memory Alpha? Yeah, but getting back, the 3 major factors of annoyance, the lighting was very less in some scenes. Yeah, you could say it works for maybe something like this, but I don't think the tone works as in general. Some of the uniforms looked flat. I noticed that in season 2, when he was talking with the psychiatrist, it was the worst cosplay of Deep Space Nine I'd ever seen. I did not notice that. I mean, their production value is really high. Yeah, you know what I think it is, Carlos? I think a lot of the modern uniforms have something to them. Live action. 2009, they had the deltas all inside them. So did Discovery. Stranger Worlds, I don't quite remember, but they're going for that plain TOS look. This is the first one, really, where it's just one color, and like the classics. And I think it looks flat to you because that's just not what you do in the 21st century. You'd have something like Riker here, where it's kind of fuzzy, it's textured. These are untextured, which is accurate to the classics, but yes, in a modern sense, it will look flat. I think that's what's happening. And of course, in the 25th century, there is still cursing. I mean, I notice it a lot, I will say, especially Raffi, but like Seven and stuff. That's a big thing. It's less that it happens. It happened in the classics. There are definitely times where, like I said, if I had written the conversation where, like, the captain told Seven she was Annika Hansen, I would have said, fuck off, I'm 7 of 9. Like, yeah, I would have put him in his... It's the equivalent of, in Balance of Terror, when, you know, there's that guy who's kind of, like, says something about Spock, because the Romulans look like them. And Captain... Okay, Can you hear me? Are we good? Am I back? Am I back? My computer froze. And when it came back, OBS had stopped streaming. But it looks like we're back. Chat, am I good? Am I good? You are fine. Okay, good. Thanks for the clarity on the flatness. Well, my uniforms in Stowe looks better than that. You are fine. Stress VK, you're the person I had the conversation about the hive mind about. No loss of audio. Oh, good. But yeah, in Balance of Terror, when Kirk, you know, he grabs the guy's chair, spins him around, gets right up in his face, and is like, now listen to me here. There is no room for bigotry on this ship, so you either get rid of it or go to your fucking quarters. Like, that is what the line would have been in the modern sense. And it's that, like, it's what I want, that correction. Like, this is unacceptable. Go away or change. That's, like, that's what it, but the problem for me is, yes, it's kind of how casually and overused it is. Especially in early Discovery. There's one, I can't even remember the context, but Troy just gets so excited and is like, fuck yeah, or like, fuck yeah, science. It's like, really? Like, but yeah, I'm not totally against it, but no, I'm not entirely happy with how it's used in this context either. But then again, like, Lower Decks has a mouth like a sailor, and I never notice it. So... Maybe there's more factors going on. Maybe the fact that it's censored in Lower Decks helps. But I'll say Lower Decks swears all the time, and I never notice. Like, I have to remind myself that Lower Decks swears. Stress VK, I think that's why Raffi and Seven are separated, because Raffi would never stand for Captain. Shaw trying to dename Seven. How the hell should we know, Stress VK? Because as I've said... this relationship has been entirely off-screen. Like, out of nowhere, after having never spoken to each other, Raffi and Seven hold hands on the Lost Arena in, like, the final pan-out of Season 1. When we come back in Season 2, they're separated and, like, hate each other, but are very invested in this relationship we've never seen. they kind of like make up and get together at the end of season 2, and now they've separated. How the hell am I supposed to know what this relationship is like? I've never seen it. This show is almost done. Like, Chakotay was a better choice. At least I can see something there. This, I don't even get to see it. Like, God, I don't know. It's baffling to me. Especially, like, did you want some sort of lesbian representation? Because I haven't seen it. Like, there's been off-screen lesbians, like, I guess. Too true, they had a closeted love affair and now it's over. No, they had, apparently, some amazing meeting we never seen. Then they had a love affair we never saw, and then it was over. Then they had it again, and now it's over. We don't know why. Like, at least we were kind of told why. You know, tell, don't show, but we were told why in season 2. Now, I don't know. The writers only know how to write the one arc, so that's what they're doing. Like, again, it's just another thing of the characters seeming to play the same character in every series they're in. Like, I guess at least Brent Spiner played a different guy in seasons 1 and 2. But in season 3, you know, is he kind of playing... I don't know. Alex has come back, so we have to dance around proper nouns again. I joked with having code names for everyone, but could you imagine joining in, like, not having the established code names at, like, episode 5, where, like, I love it when Greybird went and rescued, like, Big Toes from the White House. It's like, what? What's this guy talking about? Yeah. Let's see, what else have we got? Yeah, this guy as well. I don't know what the mission of the Titan was. I think it was like a sciencey exploration, but when I get to this guy isn't just unlikable, he's not Starfleet. Like, he goes out of his way to be a dick, right? I don't know what this guy's mission is, but he's a Starfleet captain. And I can't imagine any captain gets sent out there without diplomatic training. I think the Titan was a scientific exploration vessel. The Luna class. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But if we're saying the Constitution was a workhorse that was amazing at one job, that one job is 5-year missions. So, are you saying that Starfleet looked at this guy and said, yes, I want you to make first contact and have diplomatic dealings with alien races? Like, he started eating early because Captain Picard's reputation was so vast, it preceded him in the room by several minutes. He gets the gift of Chateau Picard, you know, a wine he's, you know, maybe not into, whatever. And he's like, I hate wine, your gift sucks. I don't even remember. He's like, Riker, I bet you're a pussy. Like, I don't know alcohol. That's what I assumed. He did, like, a very manly thing of, like, you do a woman's drink or something. Because this guy's just such an asshole. But someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I definitely heard subtext in that line. Like, you drink a drink that only idiots drink. And then he's like, also, your taste in music sucks. I had to purge all of your jazz from the system. I don't know why it was here, because this isn't the original Titan. They didn't strip it down and rebuild it. This is a new ship. But, yeah, you're just shit in your music shit. And, like, you bet you have a small penis. Like, he said that line, I'm sure. That seems like a line this guy would say. Not only is it insulting, it's problematic. But, yeah... This is a Starfleet captain. Like, really? Like, even if he believes all these things, and he's like, yeah, he calls Captain Picard an ex-Borg because 20 years ago, you know, he was a Borg for 5 minutes. Like, if he believed this, he's a Starfleet captain. He should know how to be, dare I say, diplomatic. Like... That's what I mean when I say he's not a Starfleet character. Jellicoe was awful at his job. you know, but he never, like, he's a bad commander. You know, he didn't take the transition for his crew in mind. He didn't really consider how they'd feel, but he had morals. He had a moral stance. He believed what he was doing was right. He was way out of his depth. He just wasn't good. You know, but he wasn't a bad person. He was a bad commander in this situation. I'm sure outside of this situation, he might have run a great, smooth running ship that did a lot of good. He was a bad fit for the Enterprise crew. He didn't take that into account or their feelings, and he just gave off an attitude of, shove off, I'm the captain, I know what's right. But that's different to what this guy's doing. He's going out of his way to be a dick. Stress VK, even Lorca didn't come on this strong. Lorca was an evil mirror universe dictator, and Discovery had a lot of mishandling with Lorca, and especially the audience not knowing what he is, and then knowing what he is going back. Like, you know, he gives a speech at some point in Discovery about, like, hey, like, we came out here as scientists, explorers. Now we're warriors. And that, for me, was the pinnacle with early Discovery. You do not know what show you're working with. Like, the show gives heroic music to that. When you don't know he's from the Mirror Universe, you're like, this isn't Star Trek. Like, you turn these scientists into warriors, and that's a good thing? Like, peaceful explorers, and now they're blowing up Klingons, and that's good? When you know he's actually an evil Mirror Universe dictator guy, this is worse, because he's literally turning these utopian scientists into Mirror Universe mustache-twirling villains. But yeah, like, Lorca was downright evil, and he hid it. He bamboozled everybody. This guy is supposed to be good. Like, he's supposed to just be stuck up and by the book, which is fine. That's not the kind of captain I'd want, but I imagine that'll work. You know, like, talk to anyone who served in the military. I'm sure a lot of commanders are like that, and they work. But this guy's just outright being a dick, and he has very un-Starfleet core values, like, he's racist. You know, you don't like jazz, fine. But I can't imagine there's ever been a chat Riker had. Like, Riker has to have had a talk with someone who didn't like jazz. In fact, didn't Minuet not like jazz? Or did she love it? I can't remember. She loved every jazz but blues, because you can't dance to it. That was it. But, you know, you can have a respect for, like, yeah, you know, I found, like, I was trying to listen to music, but, like, I found all your jazz records, and, like, it was a big, I don't know, you don't have to be a dick about it. He was like, you have bad taste in music, not, I don't like jazz, which is, quite frankly, probably a pretty common opinion. Like, you know, a lot of people don't like jazz, but you're not going to be a dick to Riker about it. You'd be like, it's not my thing. Or graciously accept the wine and just not say anything, or be like, oh, my wife will love this. Like, the chief medical officer will really enjoy this. Like, I don't know, just do something, be diplomatic. Yeah, this is interesting. So, Raffi's working for Starfleet Intelligence, but, someone we can't see. Like, she's not talking to a computer. She even mentions, like, we should meet face to face. She's talking to someone. Which implies, no it doesn't, it flat out says, either, this is someone we know, or this is someone whose appearance matters. So, like, is this, how do I want to name that character? Is this the guy we see at the end who put Dr. Crusher in a stasis pod? Like, honestly, that's the only option right now. But this is someone at Starfleet Intelligence. Like, does that mean there's someone we know is working from the inside? Does that, like, there's no other reason to hide this identity? Or, like, it's a Klingon, and you know that they can't know it's a Klingon yet for some reason, because that would tell us something. Yeah, some people are like, oh, a mystery. I'm like, so this is someone we know. And in fact, not only is this someone we know, sometimes that's enough to deduce. who it is. There's another example. Across time, across cultures, across genre, format, whatever. If there's a mystery, right? There's been a murder, right? And they're talking about the suspect. If the suspect is a they, it's a man. If the suspect is a he, it's a woman. Every single time without fail. Animation, kid show, adult show, movie, TV, Western, Eastern, whatever. Does not matter. If there's a mystery person and they call them a he, it's to misdirect you, it's a woman. I used to say this as a joke, but it is so omnipresent. It's in Naruto, an Eastern production. Like, it's across time. It's like sometimes, especially when it's a he, that's enough for you to figure out who it is because there's only like one woman it could possibly be. In the Naruto example, there's like a 20 episode arc where like someone's been murdered, but they keep calling it a he. Very first episode, like 5 minutes, someone says they refer to the healer as a he. I'm like, he, it's a woman. This character isn't actually a man, it's a woman. It's the twin sister, the brother's missing. And I was like, how do you, I'm like, they said he. And there are no women in this script except for a mysterious twin. And so the boy twin isn't actually a boy, it's a girl, and she did it. It's like, you can come sometimes to do so much from what's hidden. Why do you think it's a Klingon? I don't. That's just a random example of like, we don't know who it is, but their appearance could matter. If it's a Klingon, we know the Klingons are in on this. For example, like just purely random. Or the other reason I used Klingon is Worf is in this series. Like maybe if it's a Klingon, Worf is the who gets them, is like, I know this guy, that's General Glitter, famous man. And like maybe that's a way to progress the story. But no, that was just an example of why someone's appearance could matter, even though we don't know who it is. Stress VK, some speculate that it's Worf, because he has that warrior line. True. Again, that ties back to what I don't like about Lorca. Where it's like, you're warriors now. But Worf's a pacifist. Why? That'd be weird. See, this is how you mess up that amazing setup in Natural Joke. Like, espionage is not the natural conclusion for Worf. That's just not where his character would go. H3 with all the context. Hey, do you still have a 3D printer? You've been around a while, haven't you? Yes, but it's not set up. After I stopped doing Thing Explore, I never really used it as much. There's some things I've thought of that would be useful, but it's a Prusa now with 4-color extrusion. But it takes up a lot of space for where I live now, and it's just not worth it for how little I'd use it. I might even get a new one, honestly, when I get my new place, like that's more advanced, because the industry's kind of moved along from that kind of printing. But I do still have a 3D printer. For those of you who don't know, go to my channel, go to videos, and then just keep scrolling down. You'll figure it out. Yes. Let's go forward a bit more. I like the concept of this weapon. It is Doctor Strange. It is just Doctor Strange. But I was like, it disappeared. It's like quantum tunneling. You know, it's kind of like you kind of could have deduced it. Okay, side note, this is a very dystopian looking San Francisco. It's built up, but it looks like the slums. I don't like that. Also, hang on, wasn't that Starfleet HQ? Isn't Starfleet HQ on one end of the Golden Gate Bridge and the Academy is the other? Are you looking to sell it? Lol. No, I will probably set it up again. Honestly, it's probably not in the best condition, but yeah, I'm not looking to sell it. Yeah, I love that, because then, like, you take it somewhere around, that's damage, and then it reappears somewhere else and just crushes a part of the city. I like that. That's clever. Someone saw Doctor Strange and came up with a real clever idea from it. It's even, like, basically the same effect. It almost makes you ignore the high body count. which is not inherently bad. Like, honestly, even in terms of modern, it's not that bad. You haven't crashed the Vengeance into San Francisco. Raffi's gonna have to live with the fact that she should have called rather than go to Earth. But, I'll say it doesn't have the same effect as destroying Quajon, was it? That was a big moment. This didn't have the same for me, but it's kind of a much lesser... I guess we already knew there'd be a weapon. We knew something was coming. But, yeah. You know, that I like this concept. It's nice. It's Doctor Strange, but I think we can all acknowledge it's Doctor Strange and be like, yeah, maybe Doctor Strange has done this. I'll admit I haven't seen everything he's in, but I like that concept. I've not seen it before. Just I don't get why all the buildings are gray. No glass tinted. Yes. I've said this a lot about the modern skylines. It looked dystopian. It's got these like cyberpunky holograms over a lot of things, but it's one thing that Picard's never done right is it doesn't... I'm not going to say it doesn't understand the color palette, because it does. It is intentionally gray, drab, and muted. But I think that's just so overdone and uninteresting. And Starfleet was never like that. Star Trek, you know, it's gray. There's a lot of gray, let's not be wrong. But, like, you got the brown carpets and plenty of the accents and the warmth, and it feels like a home. San Francisco, I'll be honest, I can't recall what it looked like, but it was, yeah, the skyscrapers. It was more blue. It wasn't desaturated. You'd have the bay, the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, that red, that popping, is always going to help. Blue skies. This is a cloudy day. You know, and what are all these holograms? Like, this isn't cyberpunk, you know, and it gets that feel of the dystopian slums, like everyone's just crammed in as badly as possible with no regard for aesthetics. Like, all of these buildings are well-constructed, concrete. They're even kind of interesting. Like, look at this weird angle thing going on here. But, like, there's random numbers, almost like prison-y. This is the Space Needle, but, like, built out of garbage. And I swear these are built out of shipping containers. Like, you know, just looking at it, it feels run down and slummy. Despite not. And look at the green of these trees. It's so muted. It's like Spokane in a cloudy autumn day. It's just depressing. And yes, this isn't exactly a happy scene, but you didn't have to make the city look like that. And I'm right. Like, this is Starfleet HQ, and that's supposed to be next to the Golden Gate Bridge, isn't it? HC with all the context. Looking forward to the future 3D printing comeback. Love the TARDIS vids. Thank you. I'm afraid to say I don't know if there'll ever be any of that again. There'd have to be like a real good Star Trek thing. But I think we've pivoted. I think Eagle Moss kind of replaced Thing Explorer and to keep with this Star Trek theming. Now that they're gone, I don't know. I'd still love to get back into videos. It's just finding the time, not the time really, the motivation and like effort to kind of do it with a full-time job. But I don't expect the 3D printing stuff to come back. I think we've pivoted. Maybe a cool Star Trek thing if there is one, but that's not going to be the main thing again, unfortunately. But I am glad you enjoyed it, and it's always there to go back and look for. If you want to see my old content. For some reason. Mapman. I think this isn't Starfleet HQ. It's a satellite office. I don't know, though. They said it was somewhere else. Yeah, I either missed the line or didn't quite catch it. If we really want to pixel hunt... You know what, actually? This episode's a few days old. Let's go back to the Memory Alpha page. Okay. The Next Generation, scroll down, Act 3, 4, Meanwhile, the Titan, the Lost Arena approaches the recruiting center. Okay, that was a Starfleet recruitment center. which says something, actually, about, like, why you would target a recruitment center. But yes, this is not Starfleet HQ. This is a recruitment center. Let's see. Massacre places the ship on autopilot and tries to open a channel to warn them of an attack. Is that Rafi's last name? They're calling Rafi Massacre. Just quantum tunnel opens under the recruitment center, tearing it apart. All Musker can do is stare. Is it Rafi Musker? Hang on. This message is held for review. Love heart square. Show. Okay, YouTube. I don't know why you thought that was potentially inappropriate. But no, I'm sorry. We have to dig. I need the Rafi page. Star Trek Rafi Memory Alpha. Raphaelia E. Massacre. God, that's a... We're gonna forget that. If they ever said that name. Ever. Like her first name, I'm sure. But, Did one of you write this? Who wrote that memory alpha? That's like a mega fan. You're writing a memory alpha page for a new episode, and you're calling her Massacre. Like that. Everyone pay attention to that memory alpha page, because I imagine it's going to be edited. Sometime in the near future. I wrote a memory alpha page once. I did, on Soji's mom. I wrote a page for that, and it got replaced with a different page. They didn't like it for some reason. And I never wrote another page again. But yeah, I did. I wrote a memory alpha page. Anything else? I will say, when we get to the lighting, I think it really shows in scenes like this, where it is overlit in orange. Not even overlit necessarily, but like they're next to a sun. In the captain's quarters, that big nebula thing. That is when these sets look the best. With the exception of the hallway, which for some reason is lit completely differently. God, you see what I have to deal with. This hallway, this thing that looked the best is when there's a sun right out the window. Like, yeah, it looked Starfleet. This is like a runabout evolution. It's a different color palette. But, you know, you're at liberty to change that. If anything, it's a bit weird. We went back to TNG with some of these color palettes. Also, I swear, Ashens just reviewed this flashlight. Anyone else? Ashens on YouTube? I swear he just reviewed this, and it really took me out of it. But again, nitpicks. These guns they have, like... I don't know, it feels too much like a gun to me. A Starfleet phaser shouldn't have a finger protector. I'm not a gun person. I don't know what it's called. But you know that thing that wraps in front of the hands? Or in a real gun, where the trigger is, there's like a protector thing so you don't accidentally hit it. A Starfleet gun shouldn't have that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to be plastic. That is a bit jarring in like early TNG. But there's two halves really to the look of this show. Math Man, maybe they chose her last, maybe they chose her last with some hidden meaning in mind. If I remember high school German right, it means musician. Oh, her last name. Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing it. And, that was a very, very big fan of Picard who wrote that memory alpha page. Good for you. Good for you if you love Picard that much. But that took me off guard. Like, this guy, it explains who the weird person in the poster is, who's not a TNG character. By the way, on Paramount, the poster they have for the season, I did not realize that was painted like it was an old movie poster. I adore it. With, like, all their faces and stuff, that is an amazing, amazing poster. I actually guessed who this was early, because I'm like, that hair's kind of red, isn't it? But I'm not at all against the idea of Crusher kind of going off and having her own life. As this goes on, I just realized it's gonna be hilarious if this guy's adopted. So like he doesn't actually have red hair. He's got a very English accent. So wonder who the father is, but wonder where he acquired his father. Better not have died when he was a kid, because I want to know where you got that accent if that was the case. But yeah, going through, I honestly, visually, the best part of the episode was this. They tried to win me over by playing the First Contact theme for some random reason. Great theme, but it's not going to work. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually like kind of like the intro, what is going to happen in the show. But these are beautiful L-cars. Like, I realize they're probably what's in the show, but it's way better than any display we saw in the show, and I think that is lighting. I think that is 100% lighting. Like, this has got to be just on the set. I remember seeing the L-cars when they were filming. Yeah, there's something, DNA, genetic, something going on. I noticed that in one of the earlier things, but see, look at, that's the like TNG, how they show DNA. Like, there's so much love put in these diagrams, and this is what I mean. I pointed to that in real life. By the iconography, like, it's not the same color, but it's how they do DNA, and like you just recognize it. It's so. These are beautiful. I just wish the maybe lighting or filming or whatever showed them off a bit better. Let's see. I see people saying, yep, Bev clearly had a thing for the British accent. English accent definitely means he's French, lol. And Textrek, howdy howdy. Hello, Textrek. I love how busy this is. I thought we might get a few people for Picard. I love how I actively debated and since hearing that guy's voice, and chose not to make the English accent joke, and then 2 people did in chat. Yeah, but I think we've just bumped up against the end. Ooh. What the heck is this? Hang on. I didn't see this. Is there a post-credits scene? I'm gonna have to watch this. No, I think this is like the coming up. Hang on. Oh, yeah. No, this is a trailer. I don't want to see that. I don't like next time ons. But yeah, there's no post credits. That is a next time on this season. Is Picard back or something? I hadn't heard anything about it. Funny enough, I kind of was like, I've been doing those watch alongs so long, and it was like yesterday and Wednesday, I was like, there's an episode of Picard on Paramount Plus. Like, I haven't even thought to go watch it. Like, I always waited till just before either the recording or stream. Like, I saw this episode, it ended half an hour before I hit start stream, for me. But I was kind of like, huh. Like, yeah, I saw the trailers and stuff. They're just kind of like, hey, that show's back. You do suspect he's Picard's son, but Bev kept him a secret because of how awful... how awful Picard was with Wesley. You're going to have to elaborate on that. I don't think Picard was awful with Wesley at all. Only times I can really think of him reprimanding him are the first duty, where, quite frankly, he deserved it. And... his last episode where he was being a bit of a brat and like no one knew why. I don't think it'd be, first off, I don't think Crusher would do that. And if she did, I could see you writing it like it's close enough where she could do it, but I think it's a mistake. And I think it says a lot of, it's another one where I don't like... It has certain implications for the universe I don't really like. If she didn't want the kid, it's the 24th century. She would have gotten an abortion. That would have been fine. If she didn't want Picard tied down, that would have been sent together. But she shouldn't have done that. If that's what they're going to do, I think it's a mistake. And also, if that's how they explain where the accent came from, that's dumb. Because Picard has never met this man in his life. Mathman, yeah, they'll call stress. I thought since maybe I should really read these before reading them aloud, but then you'd have to sit there as I read it in silence. I thought since maybe all the DNA stuff in the Elcars, plus Beverly being a doctor, plus briefcase, of her husband at the beginning. Is that what that was? Wait, when you say her husband, was it, Jack Crusher or someone else? Yeah, she cloned her dad's husband. Yeah. I was trying to wonder where the DNA could come in, because the weapon is not DNA at all. That would not surprise me. That's illegal? That's genetic engineering that Beverly is, like, so strongly against and illegal. You're gonna have to really justify that. But I could see something like that. Well, that's what Beverly wouldn't do genetic engineering, ever. She's so morally righteous and so, like, I can't see her doing that. And I don't remember her character ever expressing a dissatisfaction with the eugenics ban or anything like that. You know, it just doesn't feel right to me. But that wouldn't, that doesn't make, that's not like, I see that. I could see them doing something like that. But we'll see. I think, though, we have reached just about the limit. It's been a very popular stream. I hope they're all like this. It was lovely having so many people in the chat. I've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Drunk my whole water bottle and really need to pee, so we'll get through the comments, though. Don't worry. But yes, we're definitely wrapping up. Bev would want to protect her new child from the... Shut up, Wesley. That was one time, and immediately afterwards, Dr. Crusher also said, shut up, Wesley. And Picard almost letting the silver-tongued people execute Wesley for tripping into their gardens. Picard was very clear that he would not let that happen. If it came down to it, he would have defied the Edo god and beamed Wesley up. But I think even Crusher knew that they can't... Like, Crusher wanted Wesley on the ship more than anything else, but she was professional enough and understood the circumstances enough to... and knew that her son was safe for long enough that even though it killed her, she was going to do this the right way. Because she's strong. Like, yeah, so I'm gonna have to just disagree with you on any Picard and Wesley mistreatment. Mathman, TNG Beverly Crusher wouldn't do it, but none of the characters act like they did in TNG or show. Which is why I say that would be a mistake. I will say Riker acts like Riker. You know, he has got a consistent character. Troy, what we saw in Nepenthe, that's Troy. But yeah, Picard, yeah, you know, but Picard's way too complex here. Like, Picard kind of started changing in the movies. But that's why I'm saying I can see them doing it, unfortunately. But it is a mistake. Heck, maybe, honestly, if Beverly Crusher had some experience where she realized that the whole blanket genetic engineering ban is dumb, then great, because I am on the opposite side of classic Star Trek on this debate. You know, I think Star Trek's genetic engineering policy is dumb. It just is, and it doesn't work on any level. But you'd have to earn it, and again, this I just don't have faith in this cast. Like, they've earned things before. They've earned their core ideas, but this isn't a core idea. And Season 2 fumbled all of its kind of non-core ideas and their surrounding context. So even then, like, cloning or growing a baby as opposed to having one naturally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, maybe depending on how you arrange the DNA, you could get into concerns, but, you know, designer baby sort of thing is a touchy subject now, but if you start allowing the genetic engineering, I can't really come up with a good reason to say no. Like, the only reason this doesn't make sense is because of Star Trek's genetic engineering stance. And we're in the future. We're past TNG. This isn't Strange New Worlds. They can do whatever they want with that. I think they need a big reason to have it change. But for one individual, that's doable. Yeah. True, Riker and Troy. Yes. I'd also like to point out those are the only two characters who've come back. Except Crusher, who we haven't seen much of. That cloning of her dead husband's DNA feels kind of icky to me. I don't think she'd do that. I don't think her husband died and she cloned him. That would be weird as well, to make a son out of your dead husband. But she could have maybe taken DNA. Maybe Dr. Crusher's infertile. And she took her DNA and her husband's DNA, just artificially slapped them together, and that's how they made a baby, you know? But yeah, I don't think they'll do that. Is a cloning or DNA of her dead husband to make a kid. That's bad, especially when you consider she already has a dead husband who she was very much didn't do any of that for. And even when did Riker offer to bring Jack Crusher back? I think I've invented that. When he had the powers of the Q. But yeah. Mathman, oh, for sure, Stress VK. Just a random thought tossed out. Don't know if I actually think that, though. But I think maybe there's some plot thread we haven't come up yet, but I think that's a very good candidate for where this DNA stuff comes up. Or, honestly, maybe we're reading too much into this. We're so used to these intros and credits things giving us hints. Maybe even they know that and are actively throwing us off. And it's like, hey, you know Crusher? She's a doctor. Let's just design some sickbay panels. And they looked at TNG, and TNG has a lot of DNA panels in their sickbay, so they copied that. Like, honestly, it could be as simple as that. It could be that. But why don't we come here if not to analyze? But yeah, you know, I liked it. Speculation is the funnest part, yeah. But I also, sometimes we have to step back and be like, we could also just be reading too much into this. It's been a pleasure chatting, though. We'll do this same time every week. Noon PST. I don't know if they'll go this long, but this was I love doing this. It's great having an active chat. If you missed out on my Picard reviews, I'd probably go check out those watch-alongs. There's a playlist on the channel. You can get some of my thoughts and a much more analysis of Picard, like retroactively, as opposed to in the moment. Carlos, and also SH, don't know, has flaunting the use of DNA throughout their new Trek Secret Hideout versus with no restraint. I like this. I think it was a mistake to choose Strange New Worlds as the show to really tackle this because it's the prequel. It can't change the status quo. But I am all for, especially closer to where these are going to become real world issues. I think the kids now, like the babies now, will have these issues and have to deal with these genetic engineerings, where we go, what we do with it, what's the extent. I think we need to change that talk that's everywhere in science fiction of like the blanket bad, it's just bad, and even the immortality talk, which I won't get into now, and just be like, this is dumb. And yeah, no, I'm all for this. I just think it was a mistake to have Strange New Worlds focus on it, because I would love a show around this time to change that paradigm, and we have it, with Bashir, with Dal, the seeds are there, much like they were there for AI rights. That was very heavily developed. I am all for that. But if they're like, oh, the Federation just accepts that now, that's a mistake. You needed to justify that, or have Prodigy do it. Yep, I was not a fan of Dal being a DNA smokescreen. Look, we're going to keep talking. You can put your questions there. I'm going to quickly go to the bathroom. And if no one said anything by the time I get back, I'm going to end the stream. So I am going to be right back. Alex, what do you... First off, I realize I probably should have turned the engine hums on.
I couldn't figure out how to mute myself, so I was just gonna mess with the chat.
YouTube doesn't like the word race, Stress VK, but I'm going to show that comment. Yeah, I had a soup when I was watching Picard, and I drank that whole water bottle. You know, all those drink breaks I've been taking? Nice going, Alex.
I hope somebody was entertained by my takeover of chat. I literally waited till Nathan went to the bathroom. As soon as I heard, I'm going to the bathroom, I took my headphones out, looked around, made sure the door was shut, and then started typing. So I can't read all of your keys.
I was going to explode. There's a light at the top. Yeah. Stress VK. Really wanted Dal to have a whole race of people to be related to instead of just having that horrible mother of his and his family. I liked Dal. I liked what they did. I think it was an unexpected route. Very satisfying retroactively. And I think they could have done it better, because it was kind of a thing where that one woman just said, like, hey, you have, you're a failed experiment. And then everyone was just like, okay. It's like, Dal, like, you may... The message was kind of like, Dal, you may be a failure, like, because of your DNA, but you're still our friend. It's like, no, the lesson is that our DNA isn't what makes us a failure. But yeah, that's beside the point. But yeah, I like Prodigy. Prodigy's good. I want to make an announcement. I haven't seen it yet, but I've referenced the podcast Fuck Yeah Doctor Who before by YouTuber/author Daniel Hardcastle, Nerdcubed, and game developer Mike Bithell of Thomas Was Alone and other stuff. Two writers that have done a great job. They got me through Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who, which, if you don't know, you know how, like, the Star Wars movies aren't good and don't really go with Star Wars? Imagine that, but Doctor Who. We'll not get into him too much, but they were a great dissection of a show. They originally did it to, like, they love Doctor Who, and they started at a bad time, but it was a great dissection from two authors of, like, this didn't work, you feel like this didn't work, and this is why. I have no idea where to look that. Maybe you could look up Fuck Yeah Doctor Who. I don't even know if the episode's out, but they're doing that for Picard and Fast and the Furious. But if you like me, and maybe if this doesn't go well, like, for example, shows that, there were some things in this that didn't go well, structurally, and you want to know why a bit more, that's going to be a great place. I'll probably link it next episode when the first one's out, when I find a link. But, yeah, I'd recommend that. Just be aware. I think I try to rein in and kind of be civil. Nerdcubed is not that. if he hates something, he'll tell you. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And here's hoping. Like, how many? 6 or so TNG characters? They got to do some of them right. You know what I mean? And by God, the last episode has got to be ... must come to an end. Just how can you not? That you'd be incompetent. That's like a medical diagnosis. Of incompetence. I don't even know if you can diagnose it, but we've just found out how. And it's not naming the final episode of Picard ... must come to an end. Just true. I like the idea there's someone in the chat who doesn't get why I say that. In like episode 10, when I rant about how they didn't do that, they're going to be like, oh, now it makes sense. Yeah, that was a good idea. But yes, I will wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining me. I loved having all of you. And we will hopefully keep doing this for the next 10 weeks. I won't give up. I'll say that. If it gets to the point where I'm just negative and want to give up, I'm going to go to watch-alongs. I'll just do that. It won't be like last time, but I want to do it. I want to do all of it, and I think with everyone here, it's going to be a lot better. Because even the bits of Picard I didn't like, talking with you guys at the end, Stress VK, I know you were there, we had a great discussion about like the ethics of Harold, as we call the Borg Queen Girardi combination. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.